you can see the difference and you can know how to actually interact with it. If you don't understand this, you will not know how or when to deploy what. Okay, you will just model everything together. But now our focus is on agentic AI today. So what then is agentic AI? Very simple. Please, Mr. Joseph, when it's time for me to stop, just let me know. If I can finish the content, fine. If I cannot, maybe we will just maybe have another session, or maybe I'll just find a way to share the resources. So agentic AI refers to AI systems that can autonomously plan, decide, and execute multi-step tasks to achieve goals without requiring human direction at every step. So it's basically creating, systems, or making sure that they're able to interact, they're able to perform certain tasks, they can run a multi-set actions and all sort of things, and even do the sort of the reasoning and the decision making at the same time. Agentic AI is able to do that. That's the major difference between where the traditional automation starts from in those days. In the days of the configuration management days, what we call desired state configuration. Anyone that has a background in software development, in DevOps, will understand what I'm talking about. So the major difference now is that we now have systems that can reason and they can act. So it's autonomous in nature. It can operate independently, make decisions to achieve a defined objectives. It's goal oriented. So because you have to give it a specific, there's a goal, there's something you want to achieve, there's a process you want it to follow, right? Then we have it's actually connected as well, because we now have interconnection to other sort of systems. It could be a data storage, it could be an application. That is what led to what we call the technology that we call MCP today. So there's what we call model context protocol. So MCP is like your API, is like an open source API engine that basically allows you to connect multiple AI applications. So it's like what you normally call APIs in your software development space. The API in the AI space is what we call MCP. Okay, so that also helps to help us to achieve this same goal in terms of running multi-step tasks and stuff like that. Then of course is adaptive as well, because it can reason, it can adjust, it can recover from failures depending on the intelligence that's gone into the creation of it. So let's quickly move on. How does agentic AI works? I'll give you just the flow of how it works. So if you're planning, you want to start to run agentic AI sort of processes, or you want to use it to solve a particular problem, this is what you need to have in mind. This flow follows every other thing, whatever architecture you're using. Number one is that it can perceive. So it receives input from an environment, or from a data, or from a user, right? And is able to analyze that content. That's the reasoning part of it. So it's able to analyze the content. It can use the LLM. So again, you see the relationship between other variants of AI that I've mentioned previously, and then the agentic AI. So agentic AI still, most of the time, still leverage on LLM models, LLM systems as well. So you can analyze content using LLM engine or planning engine, right? And then agentic AI has the capability, depending on the tool or the platform you're using, you can break your goal into subtasks and sequences to say, I want this to run first, I want this to run next, I want this to do this first before you then do this, and stuff like that. You can create that sort of flow for it. You can plan. Then he then executes, which is the act. He executes via tools, APIs, and codes. Sometimes you might need to create some certain codes. Sometimes you might need to use some cloud native tools to support what you're doing. And then we have the reflect, which is the evaluation of the outcomes. And then it can reiterate. If it performs what you set it to do, fine. If not, you can always rework. Okay? So it's perceive, reason, plan, act, reflect. And then the loops continues until you achieve what you've already set for as your objectives for the flow. If you have any questions, I would suggest you just put it in the chat, and then we can get to it at some point. Okay? So what are the architecture patterns when it comes to agentic AI? There are different patterns. Of course, by tomorrow, it's likely that another pattern will have come up, because like I said, everyone is learning in this area, because what you have today, by tomorrow, something new is already out there. Is one of the fastest pace of technology that I've seen so far. Very, very fast. Things are really changing rapidly when it comes to AI. So the first architecture pattern so far, at least that we know today, is react agent, react, reasoning and acting. So reasoning basically is merging, it's like an interleave, is merging both processes and utilizing it like a framework when it's applying that. So what sort of task that you're giving it to do. This kind of pattern is mostly utilized when you have a complex heavy task, like an enterprise scale sort of task, and then that requires real-time decision making. So maybe when you're creating